Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Breathe, Empower, Achieve, 5-minute mindfulness for women who do it all. Ditch the stress without losing your edge, by Shonda Moralis. Narrated by Shonda Moralis. To Mom and Annika, my two most beloved, quietly powerful women, and to Dad, Eric and Ben, the strong men who empower us to flourish. At my age, in this still hierarchical time, people often ask me if I am passing the torch. I explain that I'm keeping my torch, thank you very much, and I'm using it to light the torches of others. Because only if each of us has a torch will there be enough light. Gloria Steinem. Introduction. Ditch the stress without losing your edge. When you quiet the mind and give it one thing to focus on, you quiet your body. When you quiet your body, you quiet your mind. When the mind and body are quiet, there is synergy that feeds pure performance. George Mumford. There is never enough time in the day. I'm spread so thin no one receives my best. The guilt is constant and overwhelming. I'm not even sure who I am or what I enjoy. At the end of the day, there is nothing left for me. No energy, no time, no motivation. Work-life balance? What balance? Whoa, heavy. I feel exhausted even typing these words onto the page and can imagine the effects of internalizing this dismal inner soliloquy day after day. Many of us do, whether or not we fully recognize it. And simply because everyone else looks like they are thriving, it doesn't mean they aren't struggling desperately on the inside. You thought it was just you? Not a chance. Welcome to the club, girlfriend. When teaching mindfulness to women of all ages, in all types of careers, and in various phases of life, I repeatedly hear, we are stressed, overwhelmed, and time-starved. Each of us hops onto the hamster wheel of busyness each morning, sprinting nonstop until we crash into bed in the evening, either falling fast asleep or grappling with insomnia, only to wake up the next morning and do it all over again. What work-life balance? Indeed. Thankfully, life needn't feel so chaotic and overwhelming. Imagine I could offer you an all-natural prescription designed to induce a calmer, healthier work-life balance that will fill your days with sustained energy and an adequate amount of space to breathe. It is free and legal, generates no negative side effects, requires very little time, and is beneficial to your overall health. You in? Research indicates that with regular mindfulness practice, we can change the feel of the pace of our days from frantic and urgent to calm and efficient, while also enhancing our health, productivity, and general well-being. No physician's prescription required. And all it takes is 5 minutes a day. Regardless of how busy our lives are, we can all carve out 5 minutes. I am convinced of it. I know, it sounds too good, too easy, too simple to be true. I, too, was once skeptical of the seemingly counterintuitive ability to slow down, yet accomplish more. As a recovering perfectionist, I have firsthand knowledge of the type A, workaholic-leaning buzz that comes from checking things off the beloved to-do list. I appreciate the palpable fear of losing one's edge, the apprehension that pausing for 5 entire minutes a day might precipitate the loss of precious creative momentum. Not to mention, I once thought, who in the world has time? Some of the best-known leaders, it turns out, in his best-selling book, Tools of Titans, the tactics, routines, and habits of billionaires, icons, and world-class performers, author Tim Ferriss shares replicable performance tips from dozens of highly successful people. And guess what? 80% of the world-class performers interviewed in his book practice mindfulness, as does Ferriss himself. Whether this statistic is causal or correlational, it is certainly significant and not at all surprising. Done consistently, my reward for meditating is getting 30 to 50% more done in a day with 50% less stress, Ferris writes, echoing my own experience. As you'll see, there are numerous reasons Arianna Huffington, Oprah, and Eileen Fisher meditate daily and regularly espouse its virtues and the direct influence it's had on their success, and subsequently share it with their respective teams. These empowered women all recognize that the most effective outward growth and achievement originates from mindful insight, calmness, and self-awareness. We may not be able to control all that life tosses our way, but we can adjust our perspective and automatic reaction to it. Mindfulness practice enables us to be more efficient, productive, and innovative without burnout, exhaustion, or losing our edge. It teaches us how to be more in control of our responses in stressful situations, rather than reacting without thinking. And perhaps best of all, it allows us to more readily notice and savor the good that is already present in our lives. Here you will find an antidote to the ubiquitous instances of stress, overwhelm, and time starvation, with dozens of brief and evidence-based practices called mindful breaks. They are opportunities and reminders throughout the day to bring attention to what is happening as it is happening, instead of operating on automatic pilot. We can take a mindful break at any time, when drinking coffee, while commuting to work, in the midst of a challenging conversation, or while waiting for a meeting to begin. Allowing you to choose from the area currently requiring the most attention, the mindful breaks are organized around the 3 basic needs for thriving today. Breathe practices promote awareness, calm, and energy. Empower practices address limiting beliefs, assertiveness, and confidence. Achieve techniques focus on playing big, goal setting, and work-life balance. Throughout, you'll hear my personal experiences, along with interviews with empowered women of all ages, careers, and walks of life, demonstrating that although we are each unique, we busy women are more alike than we are different. The mindful breaks enable us to not just live a mindful life, but also enjoy more mindfulness in service of our own empowerment as women and the realization of our most deeply held values and goals. I wrote Breathe, Empower, Achieve to offer support, wisdom, encouragement, and solutions for the busyness struggle we all face. I wrote it as a reminder to you and to myself that mindfulness is not so much about getting ahead as it is about living a fuller, happier, more balanced life. I love my kids, I love my husband, my friends, my family, my hobbies. I also love my work and can become easily, barely perceptibly lulled into a pattern of imbalance. I know how much better it feels and how much more effective I am when I have found a more mindful work-life balance. Because ultimately, when we are mindful and empowered is when the magic happens and when we achieve what matters most to each of us. Work-life balance is possible. Lack of time is lack of priorities. If I'm busy, it is because I've made choices that put me in that position. So I've forbidden myself to reply to, "How are you?" with "busy." I have no right to complain. Instead, if I'm too busy, it's a cue to re-examine my systems and rules. Tim Ferriss, Tools of Titans. Work-life balance. I've come across assorted accounts of successful women clenching their jaws in utter frustration over being asked how they balance it all by just one more well-meaning, inquisitive mind. Perhaps their exasperation, in part, arises out of the assumption that they are being asked to offer up the perfect one-size-fits-all balancing formula. Yet I believe this is misguided. As women's leadership coach Tiffany Dufu shares, After 1 year of speaking to almost 20,000 women on 60 stages on all sorts of topics, the question posed to her most often was, how do you manage it all? Over time, Jufu came to realize that, in essence, what all those women were truly asking was, how can I manage it all? Understandably, some of the irritation surrounding the discussion of women's work-life balance originates from the fact that this query is rarely, if ever, posed to men. Right or wrong, however, I am not at all offended by the inquiry, no doubt because I could easily have been one of those women in Dufu's audience genuinely curious about how other strong, successful women maintain a reasonable balance in their lives. Would I love to see complete gender equality render this currently female-focused question obsolete? Of course. But until that time arrives, I will continue to wonder, ask, and consider. My apologies in advance to the jaw clenchers. Work-life balance. Wildly varying definitions abound, with accompanying complexities of its overall feasibility. For our breathe, empower, achieve purposes, though, I define a healthy work-life balance as an ongoing, reasonable equilibrium among all important aspects of life, given the stage of life. This entails continually calibrating and recalibrating time and energy, making deliberate choices, lessening the guilt, dare I say, lowering expectations, and accepting that we may not be able to have it all or do it all at once. Work-life balance is categorically imperfect and absolutely attainable. Despite our society's heralding of the busy 60-hour-a-week employee and false narrative of needing to be stressed out and overworked in order to be productive and serious about one's career, in reality, we also require fun, self-care, and space in our schedules in order to function at our best. Because when even one aspect of our lives, either personal or professional, is out of balance, the resultant stress seeps into our thoughts, emotions, reactions, and behaviors in all facets of our lives. We run on automatic pilot, unintentional in our actions, repeating unhealthy habits. To avoid the anxious feelings, we binge on Ben & Jerry's, numb with mojitos, zone out with Instagram, or cultivate workaholic tendencies. And when we are depleted, we are not very productive or innovative, and certainly not operating at our best. Women are leaning in so hard, they are falling flat on their faces. Jess Davis. At the end of a long work week, when mental and physical energy reserves are at their lowest, there is scant opportunity for reflection or insight into improving our wearying plight. We spend the weekend recuperating and preparing for the busy onslaught to commence once again early Monday morning, perhaps even crawling out of bed in the wee hours of the morning to check our email. Without regularly pausing to step back and survey the big picture, it is impossible to assess the ineffectiveness of our long-standing habits or how we might better prioritize our lives. Not only that, but when we are stressed and slip into survival mode, the first things to go are the good stuff, our sense of humor, compassion, clarity of thought, and libido. Ultimately, when pressed to prioritize, we lose sight of what matters most deeply to us, connecting with family and friends, engaging in hobbies for the sake of pure enjoyment, offering ourselves a little well-deserved TLC. Instead, we fill our time with whatever appears urgent in the moment, typically everything but what matters most. We become so habitually conditioned to stress that we may not even recognize the tension headaches, achy muscles, or stomach ailments until our health deteriorates to the point of complete exhaustion, illness, or burnout, swiftly bringing us and our nonstop tendencies to an inevitable screeching halt. There's another way to live. We can pause, take a few deep breaths, and bring our full attention back to the present moment, This is the practice of mindfulness, which helps us slow the seemingly urgent pace of our lives. With mindfulness, we are more able to choose where we place our attention, determine our response rather than reacting habitually, notice and savor beautiful moments, and create increased calm. When we are calm, we are more creative, productive, playful, efficient, healthier, and happier. Breathe, Empower, Achieve shares simple ways to increase our capacity for mindfulness, assertiveness, empowerment, and leadership, regardless of occupation. To be tuned in, at ease, and aware of our overarching goals is a powerful recipe for work-life success. Only then can we tweak our life structure and choices in small ways, ushering overall balance into our daily lives. Real talk for the real world. I am keenly aware that many of the stressors discussed within this book may be deemed champagne, first world problems. One might question, as I have, if it is hedonistic to focus so heavily on ourselves while there are serious world issues yet to be addressed. I cannot emphasize enough that when we are not whole, healthy, and balanced ourselves, we are not equipped with the energy, attention, or compassion necessary to care for anyone else. When weathering a rough patch in our lives, whether a loss, major change, or various stressors simultaneously, we become highly self-focused, which is a necessity at such times in order to cope, solve, and grow. There is no need to judge ourselves for the stressors or our reactions to them. Instead, we can use these simple mindfulness empowering practices to slowly nudge ourselves in the direction of calm, balance, and health so we can once again be a positive force in the world, whatever form that takes. For it is during those times when life feels balanced and calm that we can look up and outward at the world and assess our part in creating a better one, whether through simple interactions with family, at work, or in the community at large. When we ourselves are whole, we have the capacity to care for and empower others and to make our own unique, invaluable contributions for the greater good. We've come a long way, baby, but have we? The challenge to all of us is to live a revolution, not die for one. Gloria Steinem. Mindful empowerment for women? What about men? Don't they need mindfulness too? In my work, I'm frequently asked this question, uttered exclusively by men. I understand the sentiment. I do, and categorically harbor no ill will against the male species. My loving father is one, I am happily married to one, and I am raising an adorable one. Obviously, men also struggle with stress and deserve to live calm, mindful lives. Absolutely, I want them to learn and benefit from mindfulness. The fact is, however, that although much progress has been made in the arena of male-female equality, we women still confront distinct obstacles specific to our gender, such as unequal representation, pay, and leadership opportunities in the workplace, society's unspoken but ubiquitous expectations of superwoman, and a common dose of self-doubt, all while attempting to appear consistently polished and put together. It is imperative that we raise and educate men to be aware, mindful, and compassionate. But until true gender equality has been reached, there is still a vital need to address women-specific issues. Francesca Ramsey, writer, actress, and blogger, wisely uses the analogy of taking part in a breast cancer race. Walking to raise funds for breast cancer research in no way suggests that pediatric cancer is not just as worthy a cause. It's simply that at that moment, I am bringing awareness to the issue of breast cancer. Period. It need not be an either-or issue. Women's mindful empowerment isn't one either. According to research, women are nearly twice as likely as men to suffer from severe anxiety and stress. We women are desperate to simplify and streamline our lives, yet are perplexed as to where exactly in the overflowing schedule doing so fits or how to even begin. Despite the popularity of mindfulness in modern society, we appear to be moving further and further away from actually living mindful lives. It seems the more we attempt to simplify and get quiet, the louder the societal forces shout at us that busy equals productive. We are not only working outside the home, but routinely managing it as well. Constant organizing, planning, remembering, and toggling between countless work-life details is a baffling combination, bound to distract and overwhelm. This, my friend, is why I've created the quick but powerful mindful breaks, so we can reset and refocus while getting it all done mindfully. In Drop the Ball, Tiffany Dufu writes about the myth of the ideally supported worker in which, a la outdated Mad Men or Leave It to Beaver, the professional world assumes that every full-time employee has someone else managing his or her home, when in reality, according to McKinsey & Company's 2017 Women in the Workplace study, women with a partner and children are 5.5 times more likely than their male counterparts to do all or most of the household work. And even when women are primary breadwinners, they do more work at home. Women who bring in more than 50% of their family income are 3.5 times more likely to do all or most of the housework than men in the same situation. Overwhelming and exhausting? Oh yes. This is precisely where the powerful Breathe Mindful breaks come to the rescue. We are navigating these everyday life stressors and also facing the more subtle, insidious gender workplace inequities. Due to the sense of scarcity for leadership opportunity within a primarily male professional environment, for example, typically affable, collaborative women can become unfavorably competitive with one another. It needn't be this way. To counteract this natural instinct, we can be attentive to its arising, offer ourselves compassion for the struggle, then purposefully connect, support, and promote one another's interest in the workplace, while genuinely seeking to understand and respect rather than judge each other. We model, teach, and lift each other up with encouragement. In order to come together in this collaborative, unified manner, though, we must each first feel strong and confident in ourselves and our abilities. To help you build these skills, see the mindful breaks in Chapter 2. When in need of a shot of confidence or assertiveness, the Empower Mindful breaks are just what the doctor ordered. Furthermore, in a male-dominated work world, the rest of us may find it challenging to communicate in a genuine and sensitive manner, sensing the need to be on all the time, fearful of exhibiting any vulnerability, lest it be held or used against us. With mindfulness practice, however, it is easier to observe self-doubt, self-criticism, and the subconscious stifling of personality that can originate from concern about being disliked or not taken seriously. Only when we recognize the existing barriers can we adjust our behavior so it is not driven by fear or negativity, but rather by deliberate, authentic action. Breaking down our dreams and goals into value-filled, bite-sized pieces is exactly the kind of practical steps found within the Achieve Mindful Breaks. Through my years of mindfulness work with women, moms with busy teens, leaders in the business world, artists honing their crafts, I have come to appreciate that we all share similar struggles regardless of life phase or occupation. And lest I have painted a demoralizingly bleak picture of the female landscape, I want you to know that I have great hope for us all. Conditions are slowly improving. Change is happening, but it is also up to us. It begins with each one of us individually doing what we can to empower ourselves, which is precisely why I've written Breathe, Empower, Achieve. For you, for myself, so we women can recognize what we need to heal in order to become whole, strong, and steady, and then get on with the work of leading as healthy role models for younger generations and for each other. I see bright, wise, fearless women of all ages all around. By evoking the best in ourselves, we can uncover the best in each other. We all benefit from mindful awareness, learning to be authentic, empowering ourselves and our voices, and uncovering the power to achieve. Whether we are managing a corporation or a household, mindfulness teaches us how to be the best possible version of ourselves, benefiting our families, our workplace, and the world, both men and women. My generation has a responsibility to take the power and freedom previous generations of women fought for and make the world a better, safer place. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand. Mindfulness. What's all the hype? Almost everything will work again if you unplug it for a few minutes, including you. Anne Lamott. We've all had that experience of hopping in our car and driving to a familiar destination only to realize that we have very little recollection of making a specific turn or passing a well-known landmark. Operating on automatic pilot, we were not fully aware of our surroundings, which begs the question, where in the world were we? Well, our thoughts were either in the future, worrying, what-ifing, mentally running through the to-do list, or in the past, rehashing a recent conversation or a long-ago memory, but certainly not inhabiting the present moment. Research by Matthew Killingsworth shows that our busy minds wander nearly half of our waking hours. Mindfulness, the direct opposite of automatic pilot, is intentionally bringing our awareness to what is happening in the moment with the added attitude of kindness and acceptance. Another way to conceptualize mindfulness is with the triangle of awareness. Imagine a triangle, the 3 points corresponding to our body sensations, thoughts, and emotions. These 3 points are very much interconnected and impact one another rapidly, often without our knowledge. Let's look at an example to illustrate this. Jane, a marketing coordinator at a large hospital, relishes the various interactive, dynamic aspects of her position. She loves the variety of tasks, the flexibility of her schedule, and the perfect mix of solo and collaborative projects. Her supervisor, Susan, however, is not always so lovable. Though Susan can be generous and affable, she can also, in the blink of an eye, turn angry, impulsive, and mean-spirited. It is this disconcerting unpredictability that Jane finds most nerve-wracking. Having worked with Susan long enough, 3 years, 7 months, and 23 days, but who's counting, Jane knows full well that the intense outbursts will at least be happily short-lived. Before long, Susan will predictably return to normal, though not without leaving a trail of anxiety, bruised egos, and mounting resentments in her wake. One early morning, as Jane was contentedly preparing for a high-powered focus group later that day, Susan stormed into her office, red-faced, spitting anger-infused words through gritted teeth. "Tara sent out the document with a massive error. We cannot have this. It reflects horribly on all of us. What a disaster." Freeze. What is happening right now in Jane's triangle of awareness? Her thoughts? Oh no, what's happened? Body sensations, racing heart, muscle tension, and the catching of breath in her throat. Emotions, utter surprise and confusion. Jane's next thoughts? What if I lose my job? How will I pay my bills? Body sensations, tight chest, raised shoulders, and heat rising up her face. Emotions, fear, and panic. As Jane continues spinning wretchedly around the triangle in an emotionally charged loop, a cascade of reactions in the form of fight or flight also begins to take shape. Fight or flight is our body's automatic reaction to perceived danger, quite adaptive and helpful when faced with a true threat. If, for instance, you are strolling across a busy street and glance up to see a car barreling toward you at high speed, your fight or flight response kicks in. Adrenaline flows and your heart quickly pumps blood to your muscles, enabling you to efficiently leap out of harm's way. Fight or flight affects activity in the brain as well. the front part of the brain called the prefrontal cortex, responsible.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?